Hey, it's Joe West from the West Barn with
Mike Shimshack.
Today we got Billy Jay Stein on, New York City keyboard royalty and composer royalty. He's a pianist, a composer, music director, music designer, producer, and mix engineer. He won a Grammy in 2015 for Carole King's the Carole King musical Beautiful, for the best musical theater album. He started his music career with John Kaplan in the band, or the noted part of his career maybe, with noted bass player John Kaplan and mix engineer now John Kaplan, friend of the show, in the band The Mad Hatters, was signed to Atlantic. After that, he went and studied at Juilliard, orchestration and conducting. 1998, he started his production company, Strange Cranium. He's done work for VH1, HBO, MTV, Showtime. He's worked on Sex and the City with that production company. Tons of recordings for huge artists. One noted would be Ray Charles. Tons of music design for Broadway's biggest shows. He worked with U2 on Spider-Man, Jekyll and Hyde, Flashdance, Cinderella, as well as playing in all the massive Broadway shows. In 2008, he founded Strike Audio with Mike Rosen, which is a leader in exclusive world-class music for television. 15 award-winning composers and writers working full-time producing and writing music on over 350 TV series. He's got studios in New York City and Connecticut, and it goes on and on. These are all the trappings of a huge, successful person that shows up every day, and at the end of a lifetime has accrued a paragraph like that. So congratulations and welcome to the show, Billy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
We were just talking before the show, and I was like, man, have we actually met each other? He's one of these guys that is such a great piano player and B3 player, as well as all the composing that he does. But like from the musician standpoint, all my friends talk about him as if you get him on your records, it's a whole nother level of experience. So, but he's gone on to be really celebrated in a lot of worlds, in the business world and creative worlds. He's been able to put that together as few musicians have been able to. He's sitting in his New York City studio, which he's going to show us around today and talk with us about his process and everything he does, as well as a studio in Connecticut that he just finished. And I've been watching you build that on Facebook, which has been fun.
Yeah, it's been quite an experience, that one. Yeah, so, that was with I hired Francis Manzella to build the studio, but he tragically passed away this summer. So it's kind of been all the guys that have been involved. It's been sort of like a tribute to him. But I'm very pleased with what we have there.
Now, this studio we're seeing here, this is where you don't have 15 writers at this location, do you? This isn't.
No, the way Strike Audio works is, we have a bunch of writers that work out of their own studios. But everything sort of comes into here. And I do like a lot of my day work is getting all the tracks, organizing it, kind of mastering. I've kind of learned how to do that. Trying to get it, ready for we have a streaming engine and a platform that showcases the music. But, nowadays everyone has their own space, and we let them work on their own. Sometimes I'll do higher profile or like theme songs. I'll have cats come in, obviously not during the pandemic, but we have a pretty nice live room. Well, you can't see it yet, but I'll show you around. So if we do any, like we want to get a live vocalist or a cellist or something, we'll have them come in here.
I see.
And I've done a bunch of work with Billy and
Shimshack and Kaplan.
So much fun.
Yeah, I was going to call you. We have a couple of hip hop tracks we need. So.
Come on, man. I'm the
so we usually get
a hip hop guy
assignments
around the office.
Well, it's hilarious. Like, I see on my statement, my BMI statement, it's the gift that keeps on giving, man. It's like loving hip hop and all these crazy shows that it's hilarious that my hip hop tracks are working, but I love hip hop, so maybe there is some in there. I don't know, but it's a lot of fun to make those tracks.
Mike was telling a story about sitting on the couch in the back of the room, and Billy's got so much MIDI going on, and for whatever reason, which I'd love to find out, he continues to use all these old synths rather than virtual synths. But Mike said he was sitting on the back couch and he just reached over and etched up ever so slightly one of a million keyboards the modulation knob on it. And Billy was like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Billy hears everything too. He doesn't miss a thing.
Well, everything is midied up here, including, all the retro vintage stuff I have.
Yeah, you take a lot of that stuff, right? That old stuff that didn't originally come with MIDI, and it's modified, correct?
It's all been modified. The whole, I have a Japanese team headed by Hiro Ida and Takeshi Kawana and Fuso Morase, and they are in this space. They were here last night. We were just trying to MIDI up some more stuff to the Buchla over here.
Oh.
But
now, how do you MIDI up something that's not MIDI?
Well, they're geniuses. I don't even know. He made this box so you can take MIDI, it transforms it into everything can respond to gate and CV. So like the Synthy now, the classic Pink Floyd synth is MIDI. Some of the synths are actually up in Connecticut, but we put MIDI on everything, like the CS80.
Yeah.
Now I tell you more about. If you want to know, I could tell you everything about each keyboard. But
I'm wondering, it's like, is it just like Pro Audio where guys swear that the tube is smoking the digital version? Like you don't want to be in the box because you hear the difference.
Well, for me personally, I do a lot of work in the box too. I have a portable rig, and I'm always traveling. I used to be, and I do a lot of work in the box. But what these do, like this Oberheim 8 voice is now MIDI. There's one of 6 in the world left, but we have it MIDI. I'm very excited about all this, as you can tell. Total geek. These old Roland MPU, they MIDI up to the computer, and then it sends out to this machine. What it does for me is it creates inspiration. I have to write 36 tracks a week, and I've been doing that since I worked as a composer at VH1. Since 1998. So I probably have 20,000 songs. I have to be in, there's something got to change. So what these do is it just like automatic, just press something. It gives you that random, for me, it's turning the knobs, finding something. And granted, these tracks are like, they're not full songs. They're more like beds, background music for a TV show.
Yeah, we do the same thing. It's like a high-strung guitar or picking up a mandolin or calling up like a beat to write to. It's like anything to give you a different perspective of something to be creative about. So how do you deal, like whenever you're working, it's like if your Oberheim is in New York and you're in Connecticut, I was wondering about this before we got together. I'm like, how does he deal with that? Whenever it's like, oh, I really need my Moog. And it's like, oh, I don't have that here.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say that I have too many keyboards. So it's like
you have duplicates of everything.
Yeah, I have the like, for instance, the memory Moog up there, which is cool. I got that from the Hooters. Remember the band the Hooters?
Yeah.
Anyway, and I have the new Moog 1, which is a similar thing. So I have two.
You've got a thing that might do that gag. It's like, oh, if I want that, you could probably get all your tricks in either location with the selection of keyboards you have.
Exactly. Like this is a synthesizer 110F, and I have the synth.
Oh no.
The virtual synths are pretty amazing. You can have a lot of fun with those. Yeah. So
what's your diet right now between virtual synth and hard synth?
Well, my life story it's very random. Like right now I'm doing more mixing and more like producing right at the end of someone's track. So I have to say lately it's been more virtual. I got crazy deadlines, been traveling back and forth because of the pandemic. But usually I throw one vintage thing in. So I'll take the MIDI that I'm working on and then just run it through like, an MS synth. Or what I really like is effects. I'm sure you guys are into effects, but I got these things called Publicins. I don't know if you can see them. I don't even know about the Publicins, but they're
no, I didn't see them. I saw some AMS Neve stuff down there.
Yeah.
But what are you pointing at? What are we looking for?
These are the Publicin.
Go to the left more. There you go. The one with the numbers on it, .308 and okay.
These guys. So I have a lot, and I have like, some tape echoes.
Oh yes, is that yeah?
and some
Shadow
pedals.
Hills
So
box.
I'm like a synth guy who wants to be a guitar player. So
Now,
I'll run-
do you play guitar?
no, terribly.
Okay. I thought I saw a Kemper over there.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. I run my synths through.
Got
I
it.
run my synths through Kempers or the pedals or through those tape effects. I'm trying to treat
You're
the
able,
synths like a guitar, you know.
you're able to like just print everything you need, so recalling is easy, I guess, right?
I always print. I've learned my lesson. I don't leave anything in MIDI, so I'll print it. I like to print the effects and really commit. You know, in my world, it's like there's not a lot of time. So, and it's funny being I guess I'm the A&R guy or the boss of the label. It's like no one's going to tell me, hey, I don't like that, you know. So I just commit and then just send it out to the client. The client doesn't really know, you know, what they can't say. You know, can you turn up 3K on the synth? You know, so
you know, you've got a really rare position or a rare outcome, which is super awesome creative dude that was able to manage a full labor intensive business. Like there's not a lot of dudes out there, like the way musicians are constructed, that doesn't happen. What is that? How does that happen for you?
You know, I think it was, it took a lot of risks because I felt like after being on the road with the Hatters, I was kind of broke living on the floor of my cousin's house in New York. And I talked to my dad. I'll never forget. It was like 1995 or so. I said, I don't know what I want to do. You know, I can't be a rock musician anymore because I was completely fried. And I said, you know, I'm going to try everything. And then something will fall, you know, rise to the top. Other things will fall away. And what happens is I started to write. I wrote a Broadway musical. I started playing sessions. I started to learn how to program. I started building things. And, you know, slowly but surely, all these different things kind of kept going, I guess. And I started hooking up with really amazing people. And I have a lot of partners. I think that's the key, is I'm a good collaborator.
Do you take care of the business side of stuff, or are you just doing the creative side?
You know, I'm primarily the creative side. My partner, Michael Rosen, who you mentioned in the beginning, he's more sales. And
could you do it on your own? You probably couldn't do it on your own.
No, I'm not a great negotiator, you know. But I hooked up with him. I also hooked up with another cat named Jason Howland, who I produced Beautiful with. He helps me in like the production Broadway world. And like I said, I have the Hero and the folks here help me with the programming. So I guess you're right. I mean, I'm just thinking about it now. Yeah, it was the collaboration. You know, my partners tend to enhance what I'm not good at.
Right.
And I help out with what they're not good at.
So you put out the pitch list, like, so you'll say, oh, we need this certain thing for this TV show. We need this kind of cue that feels like this with some banjo in it, or that has, you know, they want some slide in it, or they want it to feel like hip hop. And you'll put that out to your 15 or your network of people. It's probably more than 15. And then you'll start to get a bunch of submissions in, and then you'll pitch those submissions to the music supervisor, or who do you pitch to?
Well, we have a different kind of, it's an interesting business. We have a music library, and what we do is we really just put it on our site. We have 128,000 songs. You could search by
128,000.
Yeah, and we have a vocal catalog and a sound design catalog. You search like, I need a banjo Mexican sounding.
Wow.
So, you know, at 32 beats per minute. I don't know. It's whatever. That doesn't exist, but you know what I mean? They type it in, and then we create playlists of that stuff. We hardly do any custom music anymore. I mean, I do once in a while, like a theme song. We just did this Discovery show called Finding Atlantis. You know, we actually did custom music, but generally we're just creating, we need like we'll send to Shimshack, you know, we need hip hop dramedy, which is like light hip hop for underscore of like a vibe in that scene.
Now,
and then we'll just get a bunch of that.
How do you determine what you need if you're not doing custom work?
Good question. I mean, we watch a lot of TV. I have a staff of 6 people now, and we have a bunch of part-time folks. and we kind of figure out what the catalog is missing. So we have a nice breadth of genres. We see what's trending. Sometimes we'll get like, we have a few shows where we're the main source of music. A lot of like the show called 90 Day Fiancé on TLC. So they'll be like, we need music from Morocco because they're doing a scene in Morocco. So I have some friends in Greece. So they're writing some music for us now. I mean, there are sometimes specific needs, but it's not scoring to picture. We're not doing that.
All right, so let's bring people up to speed, because this is this is what I was really hoping to talk to you about, because it's like I've been in this world and I've had things just ancillarily. I've made lots of money over the years from film and sync and TV, both from the hit songs that I've had. But in the old days, I used to, we wrote for 10 years for a hit, Heavy Hitters Publishers, and they did all this film and sync stuff. All right, so when he says custom music, it means somebody comes to Billy Stein and say, hey, Billy, I've got this. Here's the video. This is what we need. And you sit down and you custom write as though you were scoring a movie, right? And it's they own that music. After that, they license that music from you. And that's a one-off relationship. What you're doing is a library where folks can go and get some of the same cues and you reuse them over and over again and pay a licensing fee. And what I guess people really want to know is, all right, where does the money come from? You get money. It used to be that you get money to license the music, and then you get a performance royalty from BMI, ASCAP, or CSAC. Tell me help me follow the money. If I'm a new arranger that wants to get songs and TV, how will my BMI statements look, and how will my licensing money look? What is that shape of that?
Yeah, so things have changed. When I first started, back in the late 90s at VH1, I was basically on staff. I was getting a salary and also a fee for making the music, and I would keep 100% of the publishing when it aired. So it was a great living. Things have changed. Now, most networks won't pay any upfront fee for your music.
That's the license, right?
Yeah, the license. So I wouldn't guarantee you wouldn't count on that kind of upfront fee. Here's $1,000 for you to write, 10 songs for the episode. What the key is you make your money if your song gets on the episode, you'll get your BMI and ASCAP money, which is the PRO income. And that is great money still. It's one of the few areas of the music business that's doing really well. And
so let's break.
Shows go on and on and on. Yeah. On. I haven't done much with Strike as of late. I mean, that was a couple years ago.
Yeah, we were working together a lot, a couple of years.
From stuff just re-airs,
We said a couple things here that need clarified. So PRO is Performing Rights Organization. Anytime people get so confused about how music makes money, anytime your music physically plays, comes out of a speaker and is performed, a jukebox could do it, a cover band could do it from stage, a radio station could do it, a TV station could do it. Anytime that happens, a performing right organization like BMI, ASCAP, or CSAC, which you can all get a membership to, these are, they're mandated to take you. It's not like getting a publishing deal. They will pay you when that performs. If it's at a football game and it plays through the speakers, someone gets a tenth of a penny and it gets sent to someone. So that's what a PRO is. A license is, hey, I'm going to give you $1,000 to use this track. We're going to pay you in advance, and we're going to put it into our TV show, or we're going to put it under our website, whatever they're going to do. It is a license that you would pay to use that license, meaning you get to use it under a certain amount of terms. You can exploit it, but you don't own it, right? Those are the two things we're dealing with. And you also generate, so we're talking about a copyright here. You also generate masters. So two things get paid for here. When you exploit something, they have to play something on TV for the Moroccan music, so there'll be a recording. So that recording holds the copyright. It encompasses the copyright, but it is a separate entity. So the master in the old days, the master would get licensed, and you get some money for that, and then the copyright. So because those could be the same person, they could be different people. So the master makes money, the copyright makes money. It gets either a license to be placed and then performance royalties when it's aired, or you're telling us that it just really nowadays gets the performance royalties. correct?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, unless you get like an ad campaign or a license for a film.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, my space is reality TV. It's cable, and it's what we deal with is volume, because the reality TV these days is about 24 minutes of music in a 30-minute show. It's wall to wall in the background, so it's just generating money.
That's a great point. Tell them about the different price points. Like, you'll get paid differently if it's background music or foreground, or if it has a vocal or doesn't have a vocal. There's different payments under that performance royalty. Can you explain a little bit of that to us? Yeah,
well, I think it's a little bit of a black box. I mean, what we sort of understand is that, if your song is on a network at prime time and it shows up in the middle of an NCIS, for instance, it's going to have a much higher payout, because I think the payout depends on the number of viewers at the time of airing. Also, the networks give a certain percentage of their income each year to ASCAP and BMI. And ASCAP and BMI have a formula as to who gets what. And now it's also filtering down to Netflix and Hulu. We're starting to see some money from those streaming services. It's not as much as network or cable, because actually when someone's watching the streaming episode, there's only a few thousand people watching, in reality. So it does match up to the number of viewers. It's just a different formula. We're not really sure. When I say we're part of the Production Music Association, because we wanted to band together with other libraries. And because I was a composer, as we know, and I worked for other music houses over the years. And I always want to be in the composers, in their corner. So we teamed up with other production music libraries called the Production Music Association, where we're lobbying for fair payments for our composers and some more transparency about how these monies are being, allocated. As far as what you're saying with the master and the copyright, that also gets into this thing called sound exchange and neighboring rights. And it's you need to take a class in publishing to understand, but we're talking about very small pennies, but they add up, as Mike was saying.
Can you tell us what you need to be a full-time composer working in sync? How big does your catalog have to be for you to generate $30,000 a year? Like, let's say, like the beginning of a full-time career. How many songs would you need in the catalog to work?
It seems daunting at the beginning, because you definitely need to create a lot of music volume. I mean, we're talking about 20 cents every time your song airs. So you have to generate a lot of music. For someone starting out, it seems like, incredibly hard to start, but you just start writing. I would say you need a couple of hundred songs.
Okay. That's better than I thought. It's better than I thought. Yeah. And then keep in mind,
you can get lucky. I can tell you one thing, you can get lucky, which I did in the mid 90s. I worked for a company called Allenette, and I had a drum loop that I played, because I have a little drum set, and it became like the backing track of a show called Eliminate on CBS randomly. And I got tons of money, and it changed my life. So, and that was completely lucky.
So there is that hit song factor where it's like lottery money. Like, you'll make $1 million one year, and then the rest of the years you could eke out your living. It's like build up this aggregate of work.
Right.
And when you say
I don't think it's $1 million anymore, but it's close.
I wouldn't know. All my hits are so old.
Right.
But, so when you talk about a couple hundred songs, when you're talking about okay, maybe that's a song is a queue of maybe there's 5, 15, 20, and 30-second things. And maybe there's some longer queues for longer things. But these are once you have a couple hundred, what people don't realize is that they continue. So it just becomes this aggregate, this attrition where you look back in 5 years, you're like, oh my goodness, look at the catalog now, which seems so impossible. So
right, and the funny thing about publishing is it's a very long game. If you get something placed, well, let alone just say you submit it to our library, by the time I do my little mastering, put the metadata in, get it into the library, then it's picked up by a show. It's a year and a half from when that show aired before you see your first check. So we're talking
Wow.
2 to 2.5 years from when you wrote your song.
Why so long?
So what I tell young guys is you have to be really patient.
Yeah.
And then international, you have
understand
to
that.
wait another year from that. So
Oh my goodness. It used to be that BMI was 8 months behind. So if you had a hit at radio, you were getting paid 8 months later for the airplay in that quarter. It
yeah,
just seems
well,
like such a
9
long
months.
time.
Yeah, we usually say 1.5 years, but it's sometimes if it happens really fast, you're right, 9 months, like three
Okay.
quarters behind. But we've seen this trend with being about 1.5 years.
So the other
when
thing
we look at our statements.
the other thing that you would need if you were trying to do sync is outlet. So you need a publisher or someone that is going to put you into their catalog and then have access to music supervisors, because you're never going to meet a music supervisor sitting in Kentucky, right? So what's that relationship, and what are you looking for when you decide to say, call someone like Mike and say, hey, Mike, we need some X, Y, and Z? Is that just because guys are good at stuff and hey, this would be a good fit for Mike? Or like, what do you look for in someone that adds to your library?
Well, you mean for someone who's new, who's trying to break in, I listen to music all day from people, and I want to give young guys chances. So for us, it's really to see believe it or not, how the sounds are. Because nowadays, I know I have a Neve mixing setup and everything, but most people can mix in the box, and it sounds with an ozone limiter or something. Sounds pretty close now. It's pretty amazing. You need to have chops in getting the sounds, good string sounds, good guitar sounds. So we know that we can work with you, because when you're doing music for TV, it's actually a lesson in being minimal. And it's very hard for guys. You want to listen to a show, you don't want to hear like complicated music in the background. So I think, the first thing is to get a good sample library and a good, sense of quality sounds. And then we usually have a little bit of a meeting or a direction, say, hey, we like this, move toward this. And then we give them references. It's sort of a copycat, crafty type
Make
of
it feel
gig.
like this.
Yeah. And it's not, I hate to say it, it's not like a super artistic venue. It's a craft. You have to really focus. Sometimes I'll put if I'm writing, sometimes I'll just do some cues. I usually put a TV on and just kind of play to make sure it's not competing.
That's interesting.
It's a different kind of beast,
Yeah, I mean, I would never think that. It's like, okay, you've got to do something that doesn't take over from what they're watching, which is like, how do you do that? Because all you're doing is thinking about your instrument, right? All you're doing is thinking about it. It's like, oh, let's make it interesting. And it's like, well, you don't want to be too interesting. You want to be only interesting enough that it makes this other thing super interesting.
And we have a formula. It's 30 seconds in, you have a break. Then you start up again. You have another break for a bar or two. And then you have a big rise to the end with a sting. So every track's like that. So editors, nowadays,
right?
I guess I'm kind of old, but we used to have to work with the editor to score it. And now editors have their little system, Avid or Adobe Premiere, where they just play around and do their own mixes,
Mm-hmm.
So they just want to take your sting. Maybe they'll fly it in with someone else's track. So we're just providing like a palette,
That's a great point. It's like, how many different ways can they use my same cue? Oh, here it is without the drums. Oh, here it is in 15 seconds with, it's like when you look through the library on Final Cut Pro, I don't know if anyone else does this, the little janky library they give you. It's like they have like a 10-second version, a 15 and a 30. But like you could tell like, oh, these are all the same piece of music, but isn't it interesting that they did their thing in this amount of time rather than that? And it's like, if you give an editor something to edit to, half the time, whatever they put in the rough cut, they're going to want to keep in there because people are going to sign off on it. Right?
They get used to that rough mix.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. It's really so many people want to do this, but there isn't really any in. It's like most people can go to Guitar Center and buy enough gear to start being a record producer and songwriter. When Mike and I are, they're just climbing all up over us, But like in your world, there's not. How do people, they don't really get into this easily, right? You've got to know someone or go somewhere and sort of hang out long enough that you can weasel your way into being around people that are doing it.
Right. Remember I talked about in the mid 90s, I talked to my dad. I actually went up to Barnes and Noble and they had these books, music supervisors. And I sent my cassette tapes. I had a little Roland XP50, like a little workstation thing. I sent mixes out. I was hustling. I was calling people, mailing back then. So I think the way to get in, we get submissions all the time. And we have meetings each week about who looks good. I mean, you just have to, there's several libraries out there. You know, it's like the old days, hustling with your tape, you know. Mm-hmm. I think there's ways to get in. We started our company with Kaplan and Shimshack and a lot of my friends on Broadway, because when I was playing in the Broadway pit, a lot of my, you know, co-musicians, they're like, how do I get into this? You know, I don't want to go on the road my whole life. So in my world, we definitely connected through friends. That's how the company started. Mm-hmm. But for young people, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I would check out Production Music Association. They have events. I guess it's virtually now, but they have them in New York and LA. I think in Nashville too, where they have composers come in. Yeah. They have listening sessions. It's trailer music houses. There are, you know, advertising agencies. And then there are production music libraries. So I think there's opportunity, you know?
Yeah, I think maybe you're right, because the less huge something is, I mean, I guess it's people who really want to go for it, and then there's less people there doing that. Unlike everybody who grabs a, you know, set of headphones and a laptop, you know, and is making beats.
I mean, writing music for TV is in our world is a little less glamorous, I guess, than other niches in the music business. So that's why I personally still do more fun stuff, mixing and producing artists. We have a vocal catalog where we focus on real albums, because believe it or not, a lot of reality TV now, they want songs. So it's moving back to, like, we have a bunch of artists, a lot of sort of famous artists that use pseudonyms for this particular genre, because the lyrics have to be very tame. They have to be global. So it's growing. Production music is everywhere. That's the funny thing.
Can you tell me, what would happen? Let's say if you're like, oh, we need this song that you've got, Joe. How do I get it used for that use without having to deal with the copyright being all defiled? Let's say, like, I own everything and you want to use it for a specific thing. And it's like, okay, there's a license for that, but it's like, I don't want you to own the copyright in perpetuity. And we just want to accomplish a one-off. How does that work?
Well, with my company, we don't, I don't think a lot of libraries, well, some do. We don't take your song and license it as a broker. We tend to start from scratch with someone and we own the master. You have to be a one-stop shop.
I get it.
So
but when you talk about a famous artist using the pseudonym, you own those masters of those famous artists?
Yeah, with the vocal catalog, we own the masters. We split the publishing. They take the writer share. We take the publisher share. But that master, you know, owning the master is key. We have 19 sub-publishing deals around the world with different territories. They won't accept like a third party type of thing. It has to be,
because they don't want to clear it. They don't want to administer this.
They also need so
what did you say, Mike?
They need everything yesterday. Right. So it's like you got to be able to clear everything instantaneously.
Right. The legal bills, the chaos that might ensue if one of the guys claims that, you know, I didn't want them to use that song, and then
it's a big problem. And then it's out on DVDs. The old days, I used to worry about it being out on DVDs because that required a mechanical. You know, it was rather than just being a performance, which is like, oh well, it went up through the ether and you got paid for the performance royalty. Sorry, but once
there are mechanicals in Europe. It's great. There are mechanicals
on live performances.
On anything that comes out audiovisually. Oh, wow. So if it's streamed or if it comes on TV network, the mechanical portion is pretty significant in England and in France, in Germany. Not in the United States, though, of course.
So if I were, let's say I walked into rode up your elevator and knocked on your door today and I said, hey, Billy, I'm going to buy your 128,000 songs. What, you don't have to tell me what your catalog's worth, but like, what is a catalog of 128,000 songs worth? How do you even put a number on that? Especially a catalog that's working.
there are people that do that. There are brokers. It's called a multiple. So you take your revenue from a certain amount of years and you times it by this multiple, and that's what it's worth. Now we're different. We don't have any evergreen songs, which means we don't have like a
Have
Stevie
Yourself
Wonder
a Merry
song.
Little Christmas, or
Right. Our music is going like this. Unless we keep pushing it, over time it's going to die. It's something that's constantly coming out. So we have a slightly lower multiple than like Dylan or Stevie Nicks. They just sold their catalogs. They have a different world. I mean, our stuff is. I don't want to keep minimizing our stuff. It's some amazing writers on there, and it's some beautiful stuff. I mean, it's getting more high quality, this production music. But that said, it's not
stuff that gets covered.
They're not hit songs.
I have a friend who has an evergreen copyright, and it's a song everyone would know. Back in the 60s, and this is evergreen, meaning it's always green, people. It's always providing income. This is a big song that you would know from the 50s, these big, massive copyrights. He still makes off of that one song over $100,000 a year from a song from 1966.
Awesome.
Over one song.
It's amazing.
And he, by the way, this guy is in the Songwriters Hall of Fame and has like 15 number ones and a bunch of other evergreen copyrights. So he's just chilling.
It's a big thing in the business world, music business worldwide. It's a great newsletter if you want to check something out. It talks about these things, and a lot of hedge funds and all these weird Wall Street folks are investing in songs because it's, like you said, it's an annuity. It's something that's kind of guaranteed to their investors. Mm-hmm. So publishing and in this particular niche that I found myself in now is one of the bright spots in the music industry. It really is. So
I'm surprised to hear you say that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work though, keeping it going. There's a massive amount of handwork to keep this machine like with enough trajectory that it's actually, or inertia that it's giving you an income, that's coming.
Yeah, I mean, my life, at least half my day is the business part. Mm-hmm. I had 3 phone calls this morning. I have a meeting at 12:30, which I pushed with our people in London. Now that we've moved internationally, which is even more exciting than the United States, because people around the world, they respect and treat songwriters and the musicians that play on the songs. They get money too, much better than the folks in the United States. But that said, the United States is still great. I'm not going to diss the USA right now. But, it's a lot of business work, I have to say.
Yeah.
That's why when I come to the studio and I showed you some of my gear, that's more my passion. And
have we received the actual studio tour, or you want to take us around?
No, I wanted to show you so badly.
Show us.
Can I show you?
Please.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start off with the rack of the unused. So that's the Adopter, old sequencer down to this crap to a VST, all that stuff. All right, a Simmons stuff I don't use. So then this is the electromechanical room. So these are all.
Oh no.
There's Dave's Rose.
Oh wow.
The Roadster from Nora Jones's band. This is a polyensemble. These are string synths, ARP Solinas, Omnis that, like Coldplay guys love that stuff. I mean, and then this is the clav from the Hatters in the early 90s I got from a church for $300. And this is a Vox Continental from 1965. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's great. This is the first synth, one of the first synths ever made. It's more of a collector's item. The voltages are used by a telephone keypad. This is EML. This is a Sonic 6, which is when Bob Moog was selling his Moog's products. He would bring this around to schools. It's actually the precursor to the Mini Moog.
Wow. Oh, I see. It's got like a little suitcase vibe.
Yeah, it closes down. Okay, the cool Farfisa. No explanation needed. But this is the Oberheim 8 voice. Can you see it?
Yeah. This is when you said there was only 8 of in the world?
Yeah. Tom Oberheim talked to Hero about it, the guy I mentioned earlier. Said there's only 6 remaining. He made 10 of them.
Oh my!
That's all MIDI'd up. It's 8 SEM modules. If you're a keyboard player, it's fat. Anyway, This is the B3 that I got with Tom Kalin from the Hatters from a funeral parlor in Poughkeepsie, and it's sitting on the original coffin holder.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. Now the amp room, some cool amps. This amp was given to me by The Edge when I worked with them down there.
That's a good one. Good name drop.
Yeah, I loved saying that.
Yeah, The Edge gave me this.
Yeah, you know, I'm not that cool. It just seems like, and this is, dude, if you ever want to do hip hop beats,
box. Yeah,
it's an SP1200.
SP12, right?
Beautiful, amazing. This is one of the first drum synths ever made. It's a PS Sinair. It's a Linn drum, classic.
Oh wow, original.
This is the controller for the Synthy, and this is a vocoder. And actually, this is another set of amps. Am I boring you guys?
No, this is fascinating.
Okay. All right.
And all these work, by the way. These are all things that you could grab and use.
And they're all MIDI. So I've done a few things over the years with some heavy dudes. Can I name drop one more?
Yeah,
sure.
Do it,
all
please.
Right. For like Trey from Fish, we've been working together a lot over the years on his creating soundscapes. And he sends some MIDI stuff, or I play it in, and then we trigger it. He has a foot pedal on stage. He triggers all the sound loops we make here. But the key is MIDI, so that we play it in, and later on he's like, can you add more of this? I could just send the MIDI out to whatever synth we want. So it's about recall for that. This is a Wasp. Remember Sweet Dreams, the Eurythmics?
Yeah.
So that was that synth. 909. Memory Moog, Oberheim 8. Buchla. I still haven't mastered this thing, but I'm trying. I don't know if you guys ever. It's a crazy synth. There's a modular down there, a Moog modular. Okay, this is the ARP 2600 that was used on the Songs in the Key of Life. I wish.
Oh wow!
So this is the story.
Isn't that also
Roy?
Isn't that ARP 2600 what they used on Who's Next? Is that
yeah, but this actual one. This guy, yeah. So Stephen St. Croix was the editor-in-chief of Mixed Magazine, but he also developed the Marshall time modulator.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Joe, have you ever seen this thing?
Yes.
So he used that. He brought that over to Stevie Wonder to use on Songs of the Key of Life, which I know was tons of sessions, but supposedly he brought his ARP with him and told Stevie to check it out. And the legend is that they used that synth on I Wish. So
what? That one?
Yeah,
yours.
That one.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and when he died, I got it. The Oberheim 8 voice also came from Stephen St. Croix. And then this is a Synthex, Elka Synthex, very popular. Herbie Hancock loved this, but Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk, the horn sound. Mark Ronson used this synth for that brass, Prophet 5, Matrix 12. So then,
I mean, you have to have one of the premier collection of old synths in the world, right? Got to be like at the top of that list.
Yeah, Keyboard Magazine, which went under, unfortunately. They did a bunch of things on the collection. Dude. I've been collecting since I was a little kid. I mean,
yeah,
this Moog Source I bought when I was 11 from my paper route money. So ever since then. The last one I'll show you is the CS80.
Yes.
That was Billy Payne's CS80 from Little Feat.
Oh, wow.
This actual one was used on Minute by Minute, the Michael with Kenny Loggins tune.
Yeah.
And this was on the road with Billy Payne, and it's a beautiful sounding CS80. They're hard to maintain, but this one is really fantastic.
Yeah, you mean Michael McDonald or
Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins?
I don't remember Kenny Loggins' version of Minute by Minute. Did he do a version?
No, I think they co-wrote it.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were in the room, and they had the CS80 lying around. And the story is that Billy Payne came up with some of those lines.
Oh my goodness!
But I got this from they were brokering it in LA in the early.
That's what I wanted to ask you. It's like, how are you finding gear now? Are you just like at night, looking through keyboard
I hate to
dungeons
say it, but
across the world?
they're coming to me. Like the
The homing signal
and,
coming out of your building.
yeah. No, actually, I have a couple of guys that call me and say, "Hey, you want this, PS 2100 that Chris Martin is selling?" Or, it's a whole other little. And I'm usually saying no. Depends on how the BMI checks are that year. But as far as like, this one I did research because I love Billy Payne. He's my hero. And then these ARP 2600 and the Oberheim 8 voice, they contacted me because they knew they wanted the synths to go to someone who would appreciate them and use them. So I think they could have gotten more money, the estate that I was talking about. But they wanted to see it go, I'm still talking about it and using it. So it's exciting.
And what a better home. It's like some guy could put it, in his closet and show it to people, or you can have a guy actually making music on it. That's a serious dude. Is your Connecticut house have an equal arsenal of keys, or is it much less?
Well, I picked 12 that you're not seeing here, which is sad, but they're like my ARP Quadra, my Jupiter 8. I sent Shimshack a video of the studio.
We got that. We're going to put that up on the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
It's a tour.
So I took some outboard gear. I'm a Burl head, so I have my mothership.
Oh, nice.
And a bunch of analog gear.
Can I see your analog rack there again? Can you just take us through that?
Yeah.
You got the Avalon, some distressors. You've got is that a 900? That's not a 900 rack. What's that? Just a 500 rack up on top.
This is a 1073s. Oh, the 500, yeah.
Yeah, 500
and this is a TSL4 back rack, which is great for keys.
What is that, like a tube compressor or a preamp?
Yeah, it's a tube limiter. It's just warms up even more. And then my secret weapon, I'm going to finally say it, is this thing called an Optimod, which is the 70s.
I've got two
of
those.
Put drums through that? Okay, cool.
I've got two of those. Which one do you have? Is it the stereo TV one or what?
Yeah, it's the stereo radio one from the 70s.
Oh man, yeah, I've got the same one. And yours has the door on it, or is it broken off? No, you have a door.
It's broken off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I took it off because it's cool. You use that too. I felt bad saying because the guy who told me about it said, don't say anything to anybody.
About what?
The fact that it's that's his hidden secret weapon for drums.
Oh, dude, if you want that sizzly, crunchy radio or TV sound that's just like, it's a thing.
It's
that
amazing.
Will do it every time. It's a beautiful, and here's the beauty of these things. And I don't know if it's still the case, but there was a point right when the stations were saying, okay, let's clear out all the racks. We're putting all digital gear in. That Optimod, I don't know which one you have, but the Optimod that I have was over 10 grand. And mine was never touched. It was brand new in perfect condition. Had been sitting in the rack for 15 years. I got it for $300 shipped.
Right. I got mine for like $800. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these were $10,000 broadcast limiters. So they're going to steal the century, by the way. People are going to find they're going to be the thing that people go back to and say, there was a time you could get them for $100,000.
Yeah, dude. And I had the guy who worked on them recap them and did some work on it because it was a little janky, but anyway.
Do you have yours a stereo, right? I have a mono one and a stereo.
Yeah. The Rupert Neves, I switched from, I had an API, a couple of 8200s and a 7800. Yeah. But I switched to the Neve, and I have a Dangerous up in the other spot too, just for a different flavor.
So what is that?
This 5060,
center console. Piece. So the Neve thing is, can you go back to that real quick? Is that like a mic pre EQ?
No, it's a summing at 5059. It's a satellite.
Got it.
I liked it because it has a lot of mono options and panning. Because I learned how to mix random. Like I didn't study. I just had to figure it out as I went along. And it turned out that it's much easier for me to be outside the box, so I could.
Yeah, coming from the 2015 Grammy Award-winning producer and mix engineer. Isn't that funny the way that happens? It's like. I just kind of stumbled across it and then won a Grammy for Carole King in 2015.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, whatever.
It's funny. That's the funny reality of what it is to really do this is for a living. You find out a lot of it is hand to mouth. Just figure it out and do it.
Yeah, I mean, I did learn from Neil Dorfman and Kaplan in the late 90s. I had to. They were like, deliver me this. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I just read a lot and and use my ears. Like I love your podcast, by the way. And I was listening to the last one with F. Reed Chippen.
F. Reed Chippen.
Yeah, he
was
said he doesn't look at the faders when he mixes. He just makes. And that's the way I grew up too, because I had Yamaha O2Rs when I first started, and I wasn't really looking at the faders or anything. I was just listening. So that's why it's easier for me to use the analog stuff. You know?
I saw you.
If I get into the computer, I start freaking out.
Yeah.
You know, like I think I'm peaking, and then I don't know if it's sounding
that's
good.
That's so funny from like a keyboard guy that like who's apprehensive to getting to the computer. Can you? I saw like a Tube Tech thing on the other side. What was that?
Yeah, that's a multi-brand. The SMC 2BM.
Oh,
see
okay.
it there?
Yeah. Go down. Okay, go down further. So that's a multi-band. Keep going. Pan down towards the bottom. I'll tell you to go the wrong way. Okay, there's a retro instrument thing there.
Yeah, sorry, I can't see.
That's all right.
So that's and I have a Shadow Hills at the end.
Yeah, I see that. And you have a theremin there? Is that a theremin on that stand?
Yeah, a theremin.
Nice.
And it's MIDI, so we can.
Of course,
it's pretty cool when I have it set up. You could play the theremin and play like, you know, one of those back there, the synths.
How loud.
So it's pretty cool for experimenting. And then sometimes I'll go. This is called the Triadex Muse, which is an algorithmic synthesizer made by Minsky, the guy that was arrested for Jeffrey Epstein from MIT. Geez. He made 30 of these. So this is an algorithmic synthesizer from '73, and you can run stuff through this.
I love the speaker.
Yeah,
that's a little speaker, so like a little mono speaker on the side.
Yeah, like I read about how Peter Gabriel, for whatever, he used to just get those pads and they just put it through a little speaker, and then just mic that. So I could put the synths through this and mic it. It's crazy, to come from all this high-end stuff and then go through this crappy little speaker. This is a little special little thing.
That's cool.
This is also a special thing. It's called a vocalizer from the 80s. You could run your drum loops through that. I'm into that kind of drum loop stuff, the old, like the 606,
yeah,
the 505, and just run it through these little speakers, and then
you keep the place so clean too. Like if my place would be like all that gear, it'd be covered in dust.
Well, I have those guys. Hero helps me out a lot in Fuso. They come in and it's kind of like a synth museum. I definitely want to donate some of my stuff if I can afford to keep this concept alive. Mike is a good candidate
for donations. He loves keyboards. He's got a beautiful yellow basement down there that you could feature them in.
I remember coming down to your house in Brooklyn, Mike.
Yeah.
Playing sessions on that little Rhodes you had. Well, you had a suitcase Rhodes.
I had a suitcase. Unfortunately, I don't have it anymore. I wish I did.
Was that in Jeff's basement?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I worked with Jeff at Smash a little bit.
Yeah. It's funny how many people are, the circle of who you've worked with and who you end up knowing. I feel like I've been knowing you for so many years, haven't really spent any time together.
Yeah, one more sneaky thing, and you probably know this one, is the Culture Vulture and this Mutator, which is a filter, Rackman filter. Daft Punk, they love this thing. So that's a little cute little.
What's the even tied right above it there?
That is the 910, right? Is that a 910?
Oh wow, cool.
That's what if I'm not mistaken, that's what the guy from AC/DC was using on the snare drum.
Yeah,
on
Billy,
the Back in Black record.
You haven't listened to our episode with Tony Platt, who's the engineer for Back in Black. He talked about that extensively of how they got the snare drum sound using that. And
that was my first concert I saw was AC/DC at Nassau Coliseum in 1982. So
good parents. That's a righteous.
No, they didn't know. They know now.
Well, they're still good parents.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much. What we didn't talk about was how you've been innovating the technology world on Broadway shows, traveling Broadway shows. You know, these shows have to travel around and put out a program, and it's like, oh, let's find a way to do that with having to not rely on taking a whole orchestra pit with us, you know, and you've been cutting edge on doing that stuff. We'll get you on next time we're with you. We'll talk to you about that. Hopefully we'll get you back on soon.
Great. Yeah. I'd love to. I have it right here. It's called Main Brain, and it's running a bunch of shows on Broadway right now. So that's a whole other endeavor.
Incredible, man. You're one of those dudes like Tesla or Steve Jobs. That's like when he goes home, he's thinking of other world-changing technologies. It's like, oh, okay, I can't tell you.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was excited to do this, man. I love talking about gear and studios. I'm glad we talked about the licensing thing.
Yeah,
because I think it's a very complicated world.
The dark art.
Yeah, it's a very interesting place, but it's one of the positive spots in the music business right now, as far as financially goes.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because it's like we need a bright spot. Candidly,
I know it's pretty rough
right
now.
now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. Is there any websites people can find you at, or do you want to give out is it socials or anything that you?
Yeah, I mean, you can check out strikeaudio.com.
Okay.
And you could see the search engine that we were talking about and how the music is laid out. And if you want to get into it, you can hear how the quality of music is. You can also search for Shimshack, check out his tracks.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to do that later.
And strangecranium.com shows the studio, the gear list, though it's not for rent right now because
you don't go by Strange Cranium. It's not like an AKA, right?
Well, that was my name in the band. Captain Cranium was my name.
Oh, okay.
But when
I asked Mike, I'm like, because your Wikipedia thing said AKA Strange Cranium, I'm like, oh, does he have like a name? Like, does he go under the guise of this?
I was like,
I
don't
sometimes
think so.
I don't know. My old self kind of still around, I guess. But so those two, Strange Cranium and Strike Audio.
Okay.
And it's funny. It's really nice to talk to you guys, because it's been a lonely time here in New York last 6 months,
we're pulling
9 months.
for you.
Yeah, man.
We don't talk about it quite naturally. It's not like we avoid that topic on the podcast, but we just don't talk about it. Like here you're in the epicenter of it, and I know it's probably rude for us not to ask, but we hope you're doing well. But it's like, it goes to like the beauty of music. It's like to see you light up, walking around, showing us your keyboards. It's like that dude is the kind of dude I want to make music with. He's not jaded. He hasn't like minimized his whole creative world to produce $1. It's like, you're still the same dude that stopped playing with the Hatters. And that's like, that's pretty great, dude. Congrats on that.
Thanks. Thank you.
And we are praying for you and pulling for you in New York.
I always find it, by the way, very entertaining that you're this super, super successful guy that still is kind of the keeper of the history of the Hatters. Kaplan always says everything goes to you, and you kind of like are the guy that keeps the history going. I noticed behind you there was a plaque that had the avocado Overlord. I'm a little bit of a nostalgic type of guy, but I guess it's because this has always been a dream for me. I did not think I would make a living doing music. I was going to be I was going to be a doctor, I remember going to that little apartment you had on the west side. Remember that little?
Yeah.
But this is really cool to see where it's all gone. It's amazing to watch. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's gonna keep going.
Well, thanks for sending the video in from Connecticut. We're going to post that. We'll put a link in this description, but it's your studio tour of Connecticut, much like the studio tour he gave us today of his New York facility. Check out Billy Jay Stein, folks. Really, really, really talented human. And I'm glad that you came on the program and shared some of that with us. And we hope you get to Nashville so you can hang out with us. Let us know when you're coming. Post-pandemic, we'd love to hang with you and have you over the barn.
Thank you.
All right,
Great
buddy.
to be here.
That's it. We're signing off this week from the West Barn. We'll see you next time.